honestly, it seemed like the Saints were outplaying them for a majority of the game, and I thought that the Saints would win until I saw the breaking news late before the game started that Jameis Winston was playing with four fractures in his back. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that changes the calculation for things. I don't think he should be playing if he has fractures in his back, but um, Tom Brady was just out of his mind the whole game. And, I know he's the GOAT, right? I know this. I've been reminded of this. But from a personal level, the MAGA hat in the back of his locker notwithstanding, just in terms of how it appears like he treats his teammates, um, the people are afraid to criticize him because he's a winner. But like, look at this crap. It just, if any, can you imagine if Odell was doing this during his time with the Giants, or like, I don't know, any player who's perceived as a diva right now? I'm trying to think of one, and
Well,
oddly, I can't think of one. But
well, also not for nothing. Well, I'll give an example. Steve Smith.
yeah,
Um, when I mean not active anymore, but I would say Steve Smith was considered hothead, big like short temper. But well, I also have to remember this man is 45 years old.
he acts like a bitch.
Like
He acts like a little baby.
he's like and especially in the league, like he's like probably I think he is the oldest player in the league.
Yeah.
So like
Well, Whitworth's gone, and he had
like 3 years on
3 years
Whitworth.
on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just mean it's also like I feel like you should just as a 45-year-old man, like probably like I know he's super competitive.
Let's put up these other images
I
of him
will.
too.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
he's insanely competitive, but that doesn't really excuse like you don't need to do this. Like some people don't do this. Like
And it would be one thing if he was screaming at all of his teammates, and if, I don't know, like you heard that he was friends with any of them. But now that Gronk's gone, it seems like he comes in, he plays quarterback, he screams at his players, and he leaves. He takes Wednesdays off. I mean, he was going bonkers. Like we can't play the video, but every time just slow motion screaming at the top of his lungs, even if the throw from him was bad. I was getting pissed off because I was watching him throw, and I'm like, you threw that behind the guy, and yet then I see you slow motion chewing him out, freaking out at your receivers, at your players for this not being the right outcome. And I mean, again, like these are just some screen grabs of how he was looking. And I know that maybe there are some poor reports that there's some issues at home or something like that. Like this is how he looked when this is the other thing I sent, that when he showed up to the press conference. Bradley's gonna pull this up, but I really don't like. I don't think this is necessary to treat your teammates like this. Um, and I understand maybe he has some issues, but he's one of the wealthiest players in the league. Everybody kisses his ass on a regular basis. Oh, he's the GOAT. Let's have an in season documentary on how amazing he is. And I'm going to brand every single part of my life and put up a music video every time we win a game. And I'm going to market myself and make sure that my personality and my public persona is as commercialized and as sellable as humanly possible. But don't you dare ask me about why I went on an 11-day hiatus in the middle of training camp. Don't ask me that. Don't ask me any questions about my process and about my decisions and about the clear tampering that happened with the Miami Dolphins that I'm going to pretend never happened. Like, give me a break. This dude's the fakest guy in the league.
and also don't ask me about my shrunken head.
He looks like, I hope he's okay.
Don't ask me about my concave cheeks.
Just, man, he has issues, and I don't like that the league rewards him just because he's won all those championships and because he's the winningest is quarterback in terms of just like actual Super Bowl rings in the history of the league. That doesn't mean that he has the right to set his own rules for the team, bark at his teammates. And I'll never forget last year when he forgot what down it was and went fourth, and then goes into the press conference and denies that I knew what down it was. Then he waits to the off season and he jokes about it on the podcast that I got confused. He's a liar, and he never holds anyone account. He never holds himself accountable, but demands accountability for everybody else.
And he basically did the same thing with the Tuck Rule game too. Like for the longest time, it was always considered like, oh, it was up in the air, and then like more recently, he was like, yeah, we got away with that one. Like he
Yeah,
knows to a degree. It's like a little bit like a knowing smirk. It's like, yeah, I am kind of a bastard, aren't I?
I just one. It is when he does leave the league. He's the most villainous of villains, and it's easy to hate him. So there's a part of me that enjoys his presence because he's so hateable. But frankly, I think that there is a worship of the white quarterback and the devaluing of the guys that made him who he is. And it's done by him on the field in the way that he treats the people that he works with that really bothers me. And I think that the rest of the NFL is afraid to call him out about it because of him being the greatest of all time. And, I like.
And it does go to show
he's a dick.
And it does go to show you. And I mean, this type of behavior is not the same as like, say, someone committing an actual crime or anything. But it just, I mean, in the sense of like broadly in a league like the NFL, but in in a lot of sports, behavior, like certain behavior and certain conduct really maps on to like in terms of like appropriateness or like in terms of if any discipline is doled out. It's based on how good you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's not based on the actual commitment of anything.
And he's a creature of that right now. He's doing whatever the hell he wants, leaving in the middle of the week, leaving in the middle of training camp because he knows he can do it.
If Scotty Miller, who's like wide receiver 3 or 4 on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just as an example, if he didn't show up to training camp or if he left in the middle, if he was screaming at Leonard Fournette like that, if he was screaming at Chris Godwin or Mike Evans on that, he wouldn't be on the team. He'd be off the team tomorrow.
Yeah.
He would not have a job tomorrow.
Right. And honestly, guys, other great quarterbacks don't treat their players like this. Patrick Mahomes, loved by his teammates. Aaron Rodgers, sorry, I know people don't like him because of the vaccine stuff, but this is the reality. Loved by his teammates.
In his post game interview yesterday, Aaron Jones they were raving about each other.
They look at each other with Google
yeah,
eyes.
they were. I mean, there is something to be said about having an actual relationship and I know there have been reports that some people didn't have. Like you said, like we were talking about a few weeks of Greg Jennings or like Jermichael Finley, there are certainly a few players who didn't have this relationship, but there are many who do and speak very highly of Rodgers.
Yeah, Josh Allen, great relationship with the team.
Jimmy Garoppolo, we were just
yeah. I mean,
it's like this guy's not even that good, and they love him.
I can point out 3 people I can think of these starting quarterbacks that really don't get along with their teammates. It's Carson Wentz, it's Russell Wilson. Old teammates, maybe we'll see on this new team, and it's definitely Tom Brady because he is essentially an extension of like management, of coaching in the huddle, and that can be a good thing. And a quarterback has to do that to an extent, but he's actually just like a psycho who berates his teammates, and I think his ego is out of control. So sorry if I'm a hater, but yeah, I fucking hate you, dude.